Hello and welcome back on New Wave Global. I am going to talk about today a very serious development which has been ongoing but has recently come to light after a story published by the UK's independent paper, The Guardian, and which concerns how the Indian government has been ordering killings, extrajudicial killings in Pakistan, which intelligence officials have claimed now. The Guardian published a detailed report recently, in fact, a couple of days ago, on the targeted assassinations which were allegedly undertaken by the Indian government of the individuals that it considers hostile to India. According to the Indian and Pakistani intelligence operatives who spoke to The Guardian, the Indian government assassinated individuals in Pakistan as part of a wider strategy to eliminate terrorists living on foreign soil. The Pakistani officials call this systematic targeted killings of dissidents by Indian agents on Pakistani soil since 2020 as the, I quote, new and unprecedented, unquote, development. Furthermore, India has also been accused publicly by Washington and Ottawa of involvement in the murders of dissident figures, including a Sikh activist in Canada, and of a botched assassination attempt on another Sikh leader in the United States during 2023. While India has previously been unofficially linked to these deaths, this is the first time Indian intelligence personnel have discussed the alleged operations in Pakistan, and detailed documentation has been alleging the Indian Intelligence Agency, which is a Research and Analysis Wing, its direct involvement in the assassinations. The report by The Guardian also sheds light on how India's foreign policy um, is changing, in particular, how its intelligence agency has started to carry out these assassinations abroad as part of an emboldened approach to protect India's security or its national security paradigm, which changed considerably after the Pulwama attacks in 2019. So in 2019, what happened was that a suicide bomber had targeted a military convoy in the Indian administered Kashmir, killing more than 40 paramilitary personnel. And the Pakistan based militant organization Jaish-e-Mohammed had claimed responsibility for that. After Pulwama, the Indian approach changed to target elements outside the country before they were able to launch another attack or create any disturbance, as stated by an intelligence operative that the Guardian spoke to. According to one of the intelligence officers from India, the Pulwama attack in 2019 prompted fears that militant groups in Pakistan were planning to repeat attacks such as the 2008 infamous and horrible Mumbai bombings and attacks, which killed 172 people, if I remember correctly. The officer further said that India had drawn inspiration from intelligence agencies such as the Israel's Mossad and Russia's KGB, which have been linked to extrajudicial killings on foreign soil. In fact, it's very important to note one senior official within the Indian intelligence was quoted saying that if the Saudis can do this, why not us? During a meeting in the Prime Minister's office, you can get rid of the enemy, and it sends a chilling message to the others. The Guardian story also mentions that to conduct such operations, an approval from the highest levels of government is needed. Obviously, the Indian Foreign Intelligence Agency, the Research and Analysis Wing, is directly controlled by the Office of India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, who is now running for a third term in office, and the elections are due later this month in April 2024. Um, quoting some experts on these developments. For instance, a political scientist at King's College in London, Walter Ludwig, the Guardian report said that the alleged shift in strategy was in line with Modi's a more aggressive approach to foreign policy, and there are those in Delhi who feel India reserves the right to do the same as Western states, who have been accused of extrajudicial killings abroad in the name of national security. Daniel Markey, a senior advisor on South Asia at the United States Institute of Peace, said that in terms of India's involvement, all, all of this adds up. It's utterly consistent with the framing of India having arrived on the world stage, and the willingness to take this kind of action against its perceived threats has been interpreted by some Indians as a marker of a great power status. In response to The Guardian, India's Ministry of External Affairs denied all these allegations and repeated their earlier statements in which they had said that false and malicious anti India propaganda is being circulated across the globe. The Guardian also reported that the majority of those allegedly killed by RAW in Pakistan in the past 3 years have been individuals associated with the militant groups such as Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. And remember that these are militant groups that purport to liberate the Indian-administered Kashmir from the yoke of Indian tyranny. That's their agenda. And in several cases, many had the convictions or proven links to some of the deadliest terrorist incidents in India, which killed hundreds of people. Others who have been targeted in Pakistan were seen to be the deadliest handlers of Kashmiri militants who helped coordinate attacks and spread information from afar. According to the evidence gathered by Pakistan, these killings were regularly coordinated out of the United Arab Emirates, where RAW established sleeper cells that would separately arrange different parts of the operation and recruit the killers. Investigators alleged that millions of rupees were paid out to criminals or impoverished locals to carry out the murders, with documents claiming that payments were mostly done via Dubai. So this is really interesting. It's all sort of cross-border, transnational sort of linkages that have come up in this case. So, for example, in the case of Shahid Latif, who's a commander, was the commander of Jaish-e-Mohammed and a notorious militant, according to India, several attempts were made to kill him. In the end, the documents claim that it was an illiterate 20-year-old Pakistani young man who carried out the assassination in October 2023 and who was allegedly recruited by RAW in UAE, where he was working for a minimal salary in an Amazon packing warehouse. This is like out of movies or spy thriller novels. I mean, of course, unfortunately, it deals with the sad. It's sad, and because it's extrajudicial, it's a violation of international law. But certainly, this also goes to show how easy it is to lure these young men into this killing business. Another case that the Guardian report cited was that of Bashir Ahmed Peer, who's the commander of a militant outfit, Hizbul Mujahideen, and another one, Salim Rahmani, who was also on India's most wanted list. And their killings were also allegedly planned out of UAE, with transaction receipts of millions of rupees doled out from Dubai to these killers or their handlers. Pakistan's Foreign Secretary, Mohammad Cyrus Sajjad Qazi, publicly acknowledged two of the killings in a press conference in January 2024, where he accused India of carrying out a sophisticated and sinister campaign of extraterritorial and extrajudicial killings in Pakistan. Ajay Sahini, the executive director of the Institute for Conflict Management in Delhi, emphasized that because of Pakistan's refusal to publicly investigate these cases or even acknowledge that these individuals were living in their jurisdiction, there was no way of knowing the cause of 20 suspicious fatalities in Pakistan in the last 3 years. Sani acknowledges that it would be in Pakistan's interest to say this has been done by India. And that is exactly what Pakistani state is now doing. Its foreign office, its other officials, and of course, Pakistani media has been reporting about it, though not as much as one would expect given the history of tensions between these two nuclear-armed neighbors. Islamabad's accusations were met by skepticism by others due to the long-standing tensions between these two countries. But the allegations have gained strength after Canada and the United States went public with their similar stories of Sikh separatists who support or finance the Khalistan movement were targeted as part of Indian foreign operations in the West. In September 2023, the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, told the Parliament that there were credible allegations, quote unquote, that Indian agents had orchestrated the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Sikh activist who was gunned down in Vancouver. Weeks later, the US Department of Justice released an indictment vividly detailing how an Indian agent had attempted to recruit a hitman in New York to kill another Sikh activist who was named as uh, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Both men had been major advocates for the Khalistan movement, which seeks to create an independent Sikh state and has been termed as illegal in India. So India denied any involvement in the killing of Nejar in Canada. And while according to India's own investigation into the Pannoon plot in the United States, the killing was carried out by a rogue agent who was no longer working for RAW. Very convenient. These cases, we know how rogue agents are blamed. Even Pakistan does that when it does not want to accept responsibility. And before the US and Canadian cases, a high-profile Khalistani leader, Paramjit Singh Panjwar, was shot dead in Lahore, Pakistan, in May 2023. Panjwar's assassination was among those alleged to have been carried out by Indian operatives using what Pakistani intelligence agencies described as the religious method. According to the documents, the Indian agents used social media to infiltrate networks of Islamic State and units connected to the Taliban, where they recruited and groomed Pakistani radicals to carry out hit jobs on Indian targets by telling them and convincing them that they were carrying out sacred killings of infidels. Panjwar's killer, who was later caught, allegedly thought he was working on the instructions of the Pakistani Taliban affiliate, Badri 313 Battalion, and had to prove himself by killing an enemy of Islam. The killing of Riaz Ahmed, a top Lashkar-e-Taiba commander in September 2023, was allegedly carried out by RAW in a similar manner. These allegations of extrajudicial killings, which potentially could violate international law, raise very difficult questions for Western countries that are now very closely engaged with India in a very, uh, you know, uh, unshakable economic and strategic relationship uh, with the current Prime Minister of India, and including intelligence sharing agreements that these countries have signed on and plan to bolster in the coming years. And a former senior RAW official who served before Modi's premiership also confirmed in this report that nothing would be done without the knowledge of National Security Advisor, who would then report it to the Prime Minister, and on occasion they would report directly to the Prime Minister. The former RAW official also claimed that the killings were more likely to have been carried out Pakistanis themselves or Pakistan itself, a view that has been echoed by others in India. Of course, the Pakistani agencies deny this, pointing to a list of more than 2 dozen dissidents living in Pakistan to whom they had recently issued direct warnings of threats to their lives and instructed them to go into hiding. They claimed others who had not heeded the threats and continued their normal routines were now dead. Really important and outlandish story. But what does it mean? It basically tells us that perhaps uh, either Pakistan is looking the other way and letting India do this, or it also could give an indication that India's aggressive mode, in particular its sort of arrival on the global stage, is now going to entail further such actions and interventions. And in the short term, perhaps this leads to many brownie points for the serving government, but in the longer term, it does not serve the interest of any country. And of course, the international order, where you have a certain, basic tenets of international law, which should not be and cannot be violated. With this, I shall end now and will be back again. Thank you for joining me. And if you give your comments, I'll be very happy to respond to them. Goodbye for now.